This house tour is presented by Scotties Ultra Soft. The Scotties you know, but even softer.
We're actually in Niagara right now at the beautiful mid-century modern home that belongs to my clients Nancy and her partner Jean. What's interesting about this project is that this was actually Nancy's childhood home where she grew up. It was built by her father 60 years ago and lived here until he was 99 years old just a few years ago. So it has very special meaning, this house, to not only my clients, Nancy and Jean, but to all the siblings.
I was 2 years old and we moved in the summer of 1964. And I just have so many wonderful memories. It was a house full of joy, a lot of people, relatives here all summer long, a hub for friends and celebrations. So it was always a place where we gathered. With Karen, when we first met her, she was listening a lot. She was taking things in, she was observing, she was highlighting wonderful features about the house. She loved the house, but also we knew she was very flexible in her style. She liked to use color, but she sold us, or sealed the deal, I guess, just having a meeting here, and we just felt like she was the right person.
When approaching the house as a first glimpse, it was very exciting to see the architecture, the mid-century modern home with its wide expanses and its beams, the extensive use of walnut throughout, the terrazzo floor, which is original and extends all the way across. There are the floor to ceiling windows, which is very typical of mid-century modern. And the lighting throughout the home was original. In our case, we separated some of the lights and reconfigured them, but we used almost all of the original materials.
We said to Karen, we want to honor the past but not live in the past. We wanted to modernize it, but we didn't know with a mid-century modern house, like how much do you keep in the past, how retro do you make it, how do you move it forward? It's this balancing act, and we didn't know. We were a little afraid of how does this really work, and Karen was just an expert at guiding us through that.
Of the two main living spaces which you are confronted by as soon as you enter, to the right, the living room, to the left, the dining room, both of them were very much original and livable. They just needed updating. However, we also needed to maintain the spirit of the home. In terms of some of the design materials, there is a beautiful fieldstone fireplace across one entire wall in the living room. Also original to the home, and something that we kept that we loved, is this idea of wall panel. So the wall panels don't go to the floor, they don't go to the ceiling. It's a temporary divider. So on one side, the beautiful Bazaza tile that has flecks of gold in it and green is all original. And then on the other side, wood paneling. They're in good shape, and so we left everything as is, as a nod to the past. We virtually kept all the furniture. We changed out one chair and put it in front of the fireplace. The sofas are appropriate. They have been recovered, and they look like new, and they look like they are perfectly suited to that room. And then the ultimate is the view. So you look through these windows at this wide expanse of what looks like parkland, and a fun swimming pool and pops of color, and it's all very exciting and so very much typically mid-century modern. The dining room, we kept the light fixture over the table and we kept the table. We got rid of everything else. And instead we put a custom storage unit made out of exquisite burled walnut, in keeping with the walnut paneling that is dividing the rooms. And Nancy and Jean invested in a spectacular piece of art for the wall. And basically it's a cleaner version of what was, but it is widely used for family entertainments and celebrations and everything that it used to be used for. We took three things from the old kitchen to help create the feeling, other than this horseshoe-shaped island. The brick backing, which is typical and very much a part of a mid-century modern home on the back side of the island. Tile in a mid-century home is used extensively, and also large pops of color combined with one another. There's a lot of fun and life in a mid-century modern home, so we tried to bring that into the kitchen. The backsplash, it's very hot now to be using the round penny tiles, but this was something that was typical during the 60s and the 70s. We went and looked at lots of different types of stone, and I think that everybody was really excited when we landed on the sheet porcelain of green. It was the color of choice. It set the tone for the kitchen. It's functional, but it's also very busy. And in fact, just before we started here, I put my phone down, couldn't find it. So it hides everything. That's good. We created a coffee bar since there are so many guests here. This particular green was popping. It was just as bright as we wanted to go without getting too bright. And we identified 3 things from the original kitchen that we would hold on to. We kept a clock that was near and dear to everybody's heart and used that as a wall decoration. And then the original bell chime, we kept that too. And just outside of the kitchen, we created a pantry. We took 4 of the original laminate doors and we turned them sideways to hinge upward in the back pantry area in the laundry room that housed all of the supplies. There's a separate freezer that is there for long time storage. The most important part of that kitchen and the design was really about the memories of Mom and Naggy Mama, who came into the kitchen at 7 a.m., made soups and pastries, and they literally lived in that kitchen and moved around inside the kitchen, but also within the confines of the family room. So the memories abound of daughters and sons sort of sitting outside the kitchen at a low counter rather than a high counter, which we typically would do. And I think there was more of a flow into the family area. We maintained the overall shape, kept the television where the television was, kept the sofa exactly where it was. We changed out all the furniture, we put down a new floor, we brightened it, we painted it. Compared to what it was before, it's night and day. But I honestly think that there is still this feeling that these people who were so cherished and loved and were such a big part of this house are still here. The kitchen was a part of phase 2. Also a part of phase 2 was another original bedroom that belonged to the grandparents. We reconfigured some of that space. We moved the wall, gave it a little more of a shape because it was very long and narrow. So we shortened it a bit, we gave some space to a bathroom, and then we closed off the room. One of the fun ideas that Nancy and Jean had was to use Nancy's old childhood bedroom and bring it into this era as the principal bedroom. The walls are lined with storage, so everything is kept behind doors, and there's no mess. There's just a chair and a bed and a beautiful backdrop of wood paneling that is book matched and lovely, and a couple of shelves. And it's a handsome looking room. And it is attached and flows into another room that had been reconfigured as a separate den/office space for the 2 of them to run their music business. And then the principal obviously has its own ensuite, extensive use of tile and stone in a very, almost like if you were talking kitchen, a galley arrangement. And so it actually feels long and spa-like because of the choice of color, and there's just space, and it's very pleasing in there. The other 2 bedrooms have been refreshed and are also old childhood bedrooms of the siblings, and they were a lot of fun to do, and some of the furniture is original or from that era. But the fun thing is we created a theme for the room, and it is identified by the 45 record that is mounted on the wall outside the room.
We took our inspiration from the wallpapers that she chose. So we had the Good Vibrations room, Don't Worry, Be Happy, and then there's the Over the Rainbow. It was always about let's keep it fun, and I think if I were to probably put a thumbprint of Jean and I versus maybe if one of the other siblings had the house, we'd probably bring more music and we'd probably bring a little bit more fun.
Jean wanted a space to be able to play her vast array of instruments, wind instruments, lots of guitars, and a violin. She also likes to dance, and so there's space down there for movement and music, composing, and display of instruments. And actually, the other part of this family is that they like to play games, and so there is a games room downstairs. We pulled up the floor, we put down a new vinyl and created this look of giant flowers, which is a lot of fun, and played a bit with the scale. The other thing we did was we took the old original parquet floor, which was 6 by 6, and we refinished them and put them up on one feature wall downstairs, again as a nod to the past. We took 2 of the bathrooms and created one rather large wet room that has space for people to come and change, shower before they go in the pool, that kind of thing. The rejuvenation of the landscaping has just happened in a very big way. So the entry of the house is all low now, so that the impact is actually from the inside, because when you look out, nothing stops your eye. There were hedges. Your eye just flows, and so there's this sense of outside, inside. And it's the same thing with the back as well. There's a flow of stone that is natural. And so in the summer, there's a way to open the doors and just live inside and live outside as well at the same time.
The outside is really my father. He had an unbelievable green thumb, and he had some beautiful gardens. What we had to do is refresh it. So there was a lot of things that structurally were deteriorating, so we had to do that. With the outside landscapers, we redid patios and refreshed the pool and added some new gardens and built this garden right between the pool and the terrace. So if you still look at it, you'd still say, okay, this has got my father's thumbprint all over it. And in fact, I'm busy doing some of the gardens that take forever to plant with 500 flowers. I think my siblings think I'm crazy, but I'm channeling my dad. But anyways, so if you look at it, you'd say, hey, this is really familiar. However, it really has been refreshed in a big way.
You would think that because of the special mandates that were built into the project, there were certain expectations of the rest of the family, and I think I was a little nervous about how it was going to present when it was all done, because nobody had really seen it until it was ready to be seen. And so yeah, I was a little bit timid around that and a little bit worried, but working with Nancy and Jean was really fun.
We love this place. I'm just thrilled. I never pictured this. When my father passed away, none of us, it was never in anybody's head that they were going to be here. We actually thought my dad would live to 105 or 10. The thing about Karen also is she could have been really nervous about this project, you know, given all the history and the memories that need to stay alive. But also I was a novice at this. I had never done a renovation. And so she was dealing with somebody who was just so green, and she wasn't afraid of that. And she guided us throughout. She was masterful at doing that, and we worked really, really well together. And we just felt so fortunate to have her.
You couldn't ask for more wonderful clients who embraced the project and were there as team members and had definite opinions and were aligned with one another for the most part. That is like the dream team. So I was very grateful for this project, and I feel really lucky to have been a part of it.